Cheers. Hey guys, welcome to the channel. Welcome back for all my subscribers. My name's Neil, and this is part 2 of my reaction to Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. I don't want to get into my thoughts and everything until I get to the very end of this, so let's just jump right in. If you've missed part 1, you can find the link on my channel, and let's get right to it. This is part 2 of Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. That's a crazy shot in my eyes, because you're shooting in modern day LA on the road and all you've got are period vehicles, like for blocks and blocks, like the lockups involved just keeping regular traffic off that are mind-blowing. Shooting on stage is no big deal in LA, but shooting on location in LA, a ridiculous challenge. Like, is Pendulum a real movie starring George Peppard? Like, I haven't heard of these, but I'd totally buy it. Dean Martin as Matt Helm in The Wrecking Crew. Sharon Tate, there she is, number 3. Yeah, I mean, the production design and set decoration on this so far is really an amazing job of setting the period.
I'm here to pick up a first edition of Thomas
Is
Hardy's
that the Maltese Falcon?
I ordered.
Hey, Rick, I gotta ask you something I heard about. Was it true you almost got the McQueen part in The Great Escape?
Ouch.
Hills, isn't it?
Captain Hills, actually.
Oh, that's some fun CG right there.
Eggman, engineer.
Flyer.
I suppose what's called in the American Army a hotshot pilot.
I think that's even Steve McQueen's body, and they just put his head on it. They had fun doing that. Like, I mean, this is such an ode to classic Hollywood, isn't it? And it's fun having Pitt and DiCaprio in the leads because, I mean, they're almost like the new McQueen, Redford of this generation, aren't they? This must be a real movie, The Wrecking Crew. I'm going to have to do a little IMDbing after this to find out what's real and what's created for the show. She's going to go watch herself?
75 cents.
Can I get in for free? I'm in.
What if I'm in the movie?
By all means.
Thank you.
Special treatment for fame.
Hey, can I get a
Always
picture?
kind of drives me
sure.
nuts. Now she wants a picture, even though she had no idea who she was a minute ago. Joe Namath and Anne Margaret. Nothing screams like late 60s, early 70s that much.
I'm here to help you in any way I can.
Well, it's very nice of you.
Is there anything you'd like for me to do?
So I'm fascinated because is this a doctored original? Is it a real movie at all? It sure looks like Margot Robbie in the movie, but maybe Margot Robbie just looks a lot like Sharon Tate.
Johnny Madrid.
Tarantino's definitely got a thing for Westerns, you know, between Django Unchained and The Hateful Eight. I could see him very much inspired by Sergio Leone and Sam Peckinpah.
Wake her the heck up, get her down here with her fiddle and her bow, and entertain my guest.
Si, senor. But please, don't hurt her this time, eh?
I ain't gonna hurt her. I just want her to play the fiddle. Line, go fetch.
A lot of suspension of disbelief, obviously, because, you know, we saw the whole sequence as it would appear in the TV show. Tons of camera setups. And all of a sudden we break that by him losing the line. And we were also on his single, so you probably would have been in a wider 2-shot of the table the first few takes of that scene with them eating, which means he'd know the line by then. This is what's called it over.
Line. Can we just cut? Can we just cut? No, really, just no, really, Sam.
Back when they were shooting film, they'd cut. You're wasting film right now.
You're a fucking miserable drunk. You fucking remembering your fucking lines. I practiced them and now I don't look like I practiced.
He's doing such a good job of capturing that manic sensitivity that a lot of actors, I think, have at some level.
Let me tell you something. You don't get these lines right, I'm gonna blow your brains out.
Actors have such a strange combination of huge ego and confidence and massive insecurity. That need for external validation, like right here. She needs to see her performance. She needs to hear the crowd applauding and laughing. Did she train with Bruce Lee for this? Or is she just picturing herself fighting Bruce Lee? Yeah, there's that validation. Okay, yeah, so she trained with Bruce. That's awesome. And funny. Again. We don't know anything about this girl, and yet we know so much about her already. It's awesome.
Actors are phony. Oh. They just say lines that other people write and pretend to murder people on their stupid TV shows. Meanwhile, real people...
I love that Tarantino's just like, let's look at the bottom of a lot of women's feet in this movie. We got Margot's in the theater. We got hers on the front windshield.
They haven't hurt you.
Camera's ready, Mr. Dalton.
So that guy knocking on the door, that was me for 4 or 5 years of my career. In Canada, it's the third AD, the third assistant director. You see a lot of behind the scenes work in the trailers. In the US, they normally call it base camp. In Canada, we normally call it the circus. But all the cast trailers, hair, makeup, costumes, that's the circus.
Bengal Lancers.
No, that is funny. That is funny.
That's not so funny.
You do know kidnapping is a hanging offense.
So's blowing the heads off little girls.
This is a dark show for 1969. Yeah, the child actress playing the child actress, I don't know her name. She's excellent. I wouldn't be surprised if we see her for the next 20 years. Like, I'm fascinated. Really, really strong performances from 10-year-olds. It's so rare.
That was the best acting I've ever seen in my whole life.
Like you.
That's awesome. He still got it. You're not done yet. You still got it, Rick. The insecurity, though, man. Actors, they need that praise. It's real. Is this the Manson house? I don't know enough of the history of the Manson.
So, Pussycat brought back some guy with her, and Gypsy wants you to go give him a look-see.
Yeah, sure thing.
I love that they're basically turning this into a Western, even though it's still 1969. It's like 100 years after the fact. But I mean, all the motifs are leading up to, you know, a showdown at high noon kind of thing.
If it comes this way, let me know.
I find it interesting that the sort of woman in charge of that group of 5 indoors, we're not revealing her. We're just sort of seeing her from behind.
Well, is there anything wrong with me saying hello to an old friend?
You can't see him right now.
Did they kill him?
Why can't I see him right now?
Because he's napping.
Things just got awfully chilly.
You never know. You might have just woke up.
Oh, this is awkward.
But George finds it hard to keep awake that late, so I make him take a nap around now so I don't get gypped out of my George TV time.
Well, look, Red, I'm coming in. With my own 2 eyes, I'm gonna get a good look at George.
More soles of feet.
Because it has Noxema medication. Right in it. So clean, it's actually
Whenever you
good
hear
for your
flies
skin.
like that,
So fresh and natural looking.
you
you're always
automatically
ready for
think, oh, there's a corpse somewhere,
And
don't you?
You never know. The next boy you meet may
And a rat stuck on a rat trap. She's letting them in. Like, is this just a booby-trapped room or something? They don't seem like they've really got their shit together. Just that they'd be willing to kill for a cause, I'm guessing.
George!
He's alive.
Hi, George.
I was not expecting that he's alive. It's his nap time, and he is blind.
The man can't see shit,
I'm
okay?
sorry about that. I was told.
Squeaky sent me to bed.
Oh, that's Squeaky
That'd
Fro.
be the little redhead out front.
I know some of the names attached, but I'm not even positive that Sharon Tate was the victim in a Manson murders or whether she was somehow involved with his children. You know, when this movie comes out 50 years after the history of it all, a lot of the viewers don't know that stuff well.
Tex! That wine guy's back at the ranch kicking Sam's face in.
It's a really cool take on a Western. You know, it's not pretending to be anything other than a Western, but it's also a 1960s Hollywood movie. It's kind of awesome.
At PCH? Yeah. Malibu.
That's the thing you do when you're in the business, is you talk about where the locations are. And, you know, you recognize so many Vancouver landmarks and locations when you're watching stuff you've never even knew was shot in town. I mean, there must have been at least a couple of days of production on this show just to do the shows. Doing this scene from the FBI, doing the old Western, the black and white Western. 6 months later. So is he doing the Italy thing? I wonder how much of that's real footage and how much of that's shot for the purposes of this show. Like, you'd really have to comb through the end credits where they show all the permissions that they used from other productions. Some would call Tarantino style indulgent. Like, he stays in these story beats and shots for so long. He doesn't care about the length of the movie. I mean, this one is 160 minutes long, but it never feels like it drags. I mean, there's so much fun in his style, this gonzo style that seems to work. Oh, Sharon's pregnant. Was Bruce Lee really connected with Sharon Tate like that? I find that fascinating.
Around 10, Sharon and her friends left El Coyote and arrived back at her house.
It's interesting that we've suddenly gone to the Kurt Russell narration part of the story. Like, he's just playing a competing stunt coordinator of sorts. It's a weird man to be the narrator. I find it interesting that we never really saw exactly what happened with Cliff and the wife that he supposedly killed. Like, we saw the setup for what was potentially a murder or an accident, but we never saw any more of that.
It was after 11:45 by the time the yellow cab dropped Rick and Cliff in front of the house.
Hey, get right here.
Tarantino has fun perverting history, you know, like, I mean, he killed Hitler and all the Nazi elite in Inglourious Bastards, even though it was set as such a historically accurate movie to begin with. It went sideways. I feel like the dog's going to be a plot point, but who knows? Cliff's career's kind of over, ain't it? You know what old stuntmen end up doing? Driving cars. On screen. Precision driving work. But they stop taking falls. They stop doing fights. They stop doing burns and explosions and all of the stuff that takes wear and tear on a body because their bodies are already worn and torn. So they drive. The hero needs to do a weaving shot through a bunch of other cars. You need precision drivers in all those other cars. And they've all got old stuntmen driving them.
The hell do you think you're doing bringing that noisy hump around here at midnight?
Look, we're really sorry we disturbed you.
Look, Chief, you don't belong here.
If I know much about Manson, what I know is I don't think he actually killed anyone himself. He was just so freaking charismatic that he persuaded his followers to kill for him.
Was that Rick Dalton? Who? The guy from Bounty Law.
Who, Jake Cahill?
Yeah, that guy in the road was Jake Cahill. And if you grew up watching TV, that means you grew up watching murder. My idea is we kill the people who taught us to kill.
Is Rick going to stop the Manson murders? Probably more likely Cliff is than Rick. But I'm not sure how these stories intersect yet. The acid's kicking in.
Oh, man.
Good food for mean dogs. We're spending so much time just opening a can of dog food. And like I say, it's indulgent, but that doesn't mean it's bad. That means it's fascinating.
10, 20, 30, 40, 50 or more.
I know that song because it was on an album called Goofy Greats that I listened to as a kid. And it was a bunch of these like wacky 60s one-hit wonders that were more comedy than music. One-Eyed, One-Horned Flying Purple People Eater and George of the Jungle and the Red Baron. They were all on that album. Oh, this is feeling so end of Apocalypse Now right now with the trippy rock playing over the slow approach leading to the murder.
You are real, right?
So did they become the victims of the Sharon Tate murders instead because of Rick coming out with his pitcher of margaritas? I really love Pitt because he plays crazy really well.
God, shoot him, Tex!
Tex!
Well-trained dog. Man, a can of dog food, broken nose, that'll set you right up. Now we're in full Tarantino. Yeah, you're taking on a guy who can hold his own against Bruce Lee. Man, that dog is savaging her. Oh, this is crazy. This is manslaughter, if nothing else. This is anyone who kills anyone in a fight, even by accident, goes to jail. Manslaughter. Rick had his headphones for all of it. The flamethrower. It's gratuitous, but at least it's original gratuitous. Is Cliff dead? I mean, he's got a knife in his hip, so that can't be good, but oh no, he's twitching at least. So Tate's just fine.
Hey! Hey!
You're a good friend, Cliff.
I tried.
You're Rick Dalton, right?
Yeah.
Well, hello, neighbor. Are you okay?
Is this going to be his big break
Yes,
back?
I am. Thank you for asking that.
Rick, would you like to come up to the house for a drink and meet my other friends?
That'd be awfully nice.
Yeah, sure.
If everything just went a little different, right? This could be that. This is that alternate history. Yeah, Rick deserves that. The man's clearly talented.
Oh, it's so nice to finally meet you. Yeah, I know. Gosh, this is my dear friend.
So I guess these four all originally died, like actually died in the Manson murders. Am I right? I know Sharon Tate died, and I guess on some level I knew she was pregnant at the time. And there we are. You know, it's interesting, you know, like it wasn't your typical level of crazy that you get in a Tarantino movie, but I still really liked it. Because a quieter Tarantino, minus the house invasion at the end. Well, guys, that was Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, and there's no mistaking that for a Tarantino film, even though it wasn't perhaps as crazy violent or frenetic as some of his other work. It's widely known that first and foremost, Tarantino, he's not a writer, he's not a director, he's not a producer. He's all of those things, and he's a very good one of all of those things. But first and foremost, he is a cinephile. He loves movies. And every one of his movies is an homage to movies that he loves. And this is clearly perhaps a double homage. It's an homage to Westerns. And not just movies, I guess, but also TV Westerns. You know, those early days of Gunsmoke and Rawhide and 60s television in general. But then this is also an homage to that golden age of movies back in the 60s. And it shows in every little detail in movies like this, from the opening credits where you get the 1960s style Columbia logo to these closing credits, which are done in a very retro style. And I'm going to call this a Western, which is weird because it's set in 1969 Los Angeles, and it ends with an alternate history of the Manson murders. It clearly owes so much to Westerns. It's almost got that High Noon thing where you've got an over-the-hill sheriff who needs to prove himself still capable. Is it my favorite Tarantino? No. I'm not sure anything will ever surpass Pulp Fiction for me. 1994 in general is just such an amazing year for movies. 3 of the nominees for Best Picture that year were Forrest Gump, The Shawshank Redemption, and Pulp Fiction. I mean, that's a pretty crazy trinity, and 2 of them are on my top 10 movie list of all time. Pulp Fiction will always sort of hold a special place in my heart. But was this fun? Was this great? This was a lot of fun, and this might have been some of the best acting I've seen in a Tarantino film. And I mean, it certainly doesn't hurt that you've got DiCaprio and Pitt, and it's a movie in no small part about acting. I was especially impressed with DiCaprio's whole day on set shooting that pilot, playing the bad guy, playing the heavy, and his breakdown in his trailer, but also the scene afterwards, that great performance where he's holding the young girl hostage and really acting his guts out. Like, he's an actor playing an actor, refinding something, and you felt all of that. He wasn't just playing the role, he was playing the actor playing the role, if that makes sense. I thought that was discernible and really well done. Really, really well done. Yeah, I had a lot of fun with this. Interesting little Bruce Lee cameo. I feel like I need to do a lot of research now. I need to learn more about the Manson murders. I need to know if Bruce Lee actually knew Sharon Tate. I want to look at her IMDb page and see how much she had done. I didn't realize that maybe she was as big as she was. I'd like to be able to put sort of a modern equivalent on her. I mean, is she a Margot Robbie, or was she lesser known than that? How prominent a figure was she in Hollywood when she was killed? I also appreciate that this was a show about Hollywood that actually portrayed the behind the scenes of working in film or television fairly accurately. There's always going to be embellishment, and there's always going to be a little additional drama because, believe it or not, behind the scenes of a TV show is not the most compelling, photogenic scene. So you have to take some creative license. But this rings true, and I really appreciate that. It's nice to see the industry given fair treatment. I'm enjoying these weekend movie things. I'm really hoping I can do one every weekend. Can't promise that that's the case. I actually have a couple of gigs lined up in the next next couple of months, so I may not be able to maintain, and this might be the first thing to fall by the wayside, partly because there's just not many movies that I haven't seen. I wish I had started doing these reaction videos a year ago, before I had all this downtime to catch up on stuff I hadn't seen. Nevertheless, here I am, watching stuff that is still on the to-watch list, and I'm having a really good time. So tell me what you thought. I'd love to hear your comments. Those are the real highlights for me about doing this channel so far. It's really cool to hear from viewers on their thoughts about movies. So thank you guys for hanging out. It's been a real blast. Take care, stay healthy, and cheers.